back to the deep dive. Today we're jumping into Snoop Dogg. What a cultural force, right?
Absolutely.
We're specifically looking at his world within podcasting. I mean, everyone knows him from defining West Coast hip-hop back in the day with Dre on the Chronic and then Doggystyle, just foundational stuff.
Totally.
But he's become this, like, huge cultural icon beyond music, known for being so, laid back.
Yeah, and it's how that persona works outside of music that's so interesting. So for this deep dive, our mission really is to look at Snoop's appearances on what you might call two-host podcasts.
Okay.
We need to clarify what that actually means in this context and then dive into some key examples from the sources you sent over. It really shows his versatility.
Gotcha. So maybe start with his own thing, the GGN podcast. People know that one.
Right. GGN, it's his platform, solo hosted. He has great guests like Dr. Dre, really raw conversations.
Yeah, unfiltered.
Exactly. Super important for his whole digital footprint, but like you said, it's not that two-host setup we're focusing on.
So that two-host idea, is there actually a show called the Two People Podcast with Snoop?
No, not quite like that. There isn't one specific show with that title, but the sources definitely confirm he's been a guest on quite a few podcasts that do have two hosts. That's the format we mean.
Okay, makes sense. Well, one that jumped out at me was the R&B Money podcast. That fits, right?
Perfect example. Yeah, episode 139, you've got Tank and Jay Valentine hosting.
And what was the vibe there? What did they get into?
Well, this is where it gets really insightful. It wasn't just like a surface level chat. Snoop really dug into his R&B side, his influences, talked career stuff, and importantly, he actually discussed owning the masters for those classic death row albums, Doggystyle.
Wow. Okay, on their show.
Yeah. Which really shows how these platforms are being used now. It's not just talk, it's like strategic. Making business announcements, controlling the story,
Nice.
direct to the fans.
That's smart.
Totally. And he talked about other stuff too, collaborations, some animated project he's working on. Apparently it was pretty funny, but also really insightful.
Cool. So R&B Money, check. But he's also been on, like, the complete opposite end of the spectrum, right? Didn't he do Joe Rogan?
He absolutely did. The Joe Rogan Experience, episode 1733, back in November 2021. That was him with Joe and Jamie, the producer.
Right, Jamie. So how did that go? Very different audience, different style.
Totally different dynamic. And that's what shows Snoop's adaptability, I think. They covered, MMA, obviously, Rogan's thing, but also Snoop's music, his commentary style.
He does commentary, like for sports.
Yeah, he's done some boxing commentary, remember? It's pretty unique.
Right, okay.
And on Rogan, he just, commanded the space, moved between serious stuff and humor so easily. There was that bit where he jokingly asked Joe about his favorite cereal. Apparently, to kind of shift gears away from a deep MMA discussion, just classic Snoop, taking control, keeping it light, but still being himself on this massive global stage. People on X, Twitter, were loving it. They called it Snoop's takeover energy. Super chill.
That sounds about right. Okay, so R&B, Rogan. Any other interesting appearances? What about that whole thing with Martha Stewart? She has a podcast now, right?
The Martha podcast, yeah. Now, that one's actually single host, just Martha.
Okay.
But it's still definitely worth mentioning here. Their chat really highlighted that unique friendship they have and all their business stuff together.
Like the lighters.
Exactly, the BIC lighters. It just adds another layer, doesn't it? Shows his range, connects with totally different audiences. He really crosses boundaries.
So looking at all these different spots, his own show, two host shows, even Martha's solo gig, what's the takeaway here? What does this tell us about Snoop's legacy now?
Well, that leads to maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to chew on. Consider this. How does Snoop Dogg's, incredible knack for just sliding into any podcast format solo, two hosts, whatever, how does that show the power of being truly authentic but also super adaptable in media today? And maybe what could that tell us about where celebrity influence and making content is heading, where maybe being real and flexible, are the things that matter most?